What if I told you that the way you have been eating garlic your entire life is destroying the single most powerful compound inside it before it even reaches your mouth? I know that sounds insane coming from a doctor, but here is what nobody in the mainstream wellness world wants to admit to you. That little white clove sitting in your kitchen right now, the one you toss into a hot pan without a second thought, is one of the most medically studied foods in human history, and you have been getting maybe 10% of what it can actually do for your body. Stick with me because by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why raw garlic is a completely different food than cooked garlic, what it does inside your arteries, your brain, your immune system, and even your hormones, and how one small daily habit that cost pennies can start changing your health from the inside out within days. I am a physician and I have spent my career studying how food interacts with the human body at the cellular level. And I have to tell you, garlic is one of those rare foods where the gap between what science knows and what most people actually do is enormous. We are talking about a food that has over 3,000 published studies examining its effects on human health. 3,000. And yet most people use it the same way they use salt or pepper, a little flavor, a little aroma, then they cook it to death and wonder why their blood pressure never budges. Here is the truth that most people never hear. When you crush or chew raw garlic, an enzyme called allinase converts a sulfur compound called alliin into allicin. Allicin is the active ingredient. It is the engine. It is the reason garlic has been used as medicine across virtually every culture on Earth for over 5,000 years. The ancient Egyptians fed it to pyramid builders for strength. The ancient Greeks prescribed it to Olympic athletes. Hippocrates himself, the father of modern medicine, listed garlic as a treatment for respiratory problems, parasites, and poor digestion. And here is the critical detail that changes everything. Allicin is fragile, extremely fragile. When you expose garlic to heat above approximately 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the enzyme that creates allicin is destroyed almost instantly. Within 1 to 2 minutes in a hot pan, the medicinal power of that garlic clove is effectively gone. You are left with flavor. You are left with aroma. But you are not left with the compound that does the heavy lifting inside your body. I want you to really sit with that. The exact same clove of garlic, eaten raw versus tossed into a sizzling pan, produces two completely different biological outcomes inside your body. One is a seasoning, the other is a therapeutic intervention that rivals certain pharmaceutical drugs in its measured effects. And that is not an exaggeration. We will get to the studies. Let me tell you about Robert, 63 years old from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Robert came to see me about 18 months ago with blood pressure that had been creeping up for a decade. His systolic was hovering around 155, his diastolic around 95. His primary care doctor had mentioned medication, and Robert was not opposed to it, but he wanted to know if there was anything else he could try first. He was already walking 3 times a week. He had cut back on salt. He was doing the things everyone tells you to do, but his numbers were not moving. I asked Robert about garlic. He laughed. He said he cooked with garlic almost every night. His wife is Italian. Garlic goes into everything. But when I explained the allicin problem, the heat problem, he looked at me like I had just told him the earth was flat. Nobody had ever told him that cooking destroys the medicine in garlic. Nobody. So Robert agreed to try something simple. 1 small clove of raw garlic, crushed, left to sit for 10 minutes, eaten first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. That was the only change. Everything else stayed the same. Same walks, same low-salt diet, same everything. 12 weeks later, Robert's blood pressure was 132/82. His systolic had dropped over 20 points. His diastolic had dropped 13. His doctor was the one who asked what he was doing differently, and Robert told me with this look of genuine disbelief on his face that he had almost not done it because it sounded too simple to be real. 1 clove of raw garlic. That was the intervention. And the numbers do not lie. But Robert's story is not unique. It is not an outlier. It is what the research predicts when you actually deliver allicin to the human body in its active form. So let me walk you through exactly what happens inside you when you start eating raw garlic every single day. I am going to give you 7 things, from good to absolutely life-changing. And by number 1, you are going to understand why this belongs in your daily routine starting tomorrow. Number 7, your digestion and gut microbiome get a major reset. Most people do not think of garlic as a gut health food, but it is one of the most powerful prebiotic foods you can eat. Raw garlic contains inulin and fructooligosaccharides, which are types of soluble fiber that your body does not digest. Instead, they travel through your digestive tract and feed the beneficial bacteria living in your colon. Think of it like fertilizer for the good bacteria in your gut. You are not just feeding yourself when you eat raw garlic. You are feeding the trillions of microorganisms that regulate your immune system, your mood, your metabolism, and your inflammation levels. And here is what makes garlic different from other prebiotic foods. The allicin in raw garlic is also selectively antimicrobial. What that means is it actively suppresses harmful bacteria, certain strains of E. coli, certain strains of Salmonella, certain strains of H. pylori, while leaving the beneficial bacteria relatively unharmed. It is not a broad spectrum antibiotic that wipes everything out. It is targeted, it discriminates. A study published through the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy found that allicin demonstrated significant antibacterial activity against multiple drug-resistant strains of bacteria, including MRSA. Your gut is the command center of your entire immune system. About 70% of your immune cells live in your gut. When your gut microbiome is out of balance, when the bad bacteria start crowding out the good, your immune system becomes distracted, overworked, and less effective at its real job. Raw garlic helps restore that balance. It feeds the good guys and suppresses the bad guys. That is the kind of two-for-one deal that almost no other food can offer. Number six, your skin clears up and your body fights off infections faster. This is where the antimicrobial properties of allicin get very personal. When you consume raw garlic regularly, the sulfur compounds are absorbed into your bloodstream and eventually excreted through your skin and your lungs. That is what causes garlic breath, yes, but it is also what creates a low-level antimicrobial barrier throughout your body. People who eat raw garlic daily report fewer skin infections, faster healing of minor cuts and scrapes, and a noticeable reduction in acne and other bacterial skin conditions. The mechanism is straightforward. Allicin and its metabolites circulate through your bloodstream and create an environment that is hostile to pathogens but friendly to your own cells. It is like giving your body a gentle internal disinfectant that works around the clock. I have had patients tell me that their chronic athlete's foot cleared up. Patients who said the fungal infection on their toenails that they had been battling for years finally started to recede. These are not miracles. They are direct, predictable outcomes of introducing a potent natural antimicrobial into your system on a daily basis. And the research backs this up. A 12-week study involving 146 participants found that those who took a garlic supplement containing allicin experienced significantly fewer colds, shorter duration of illness, and faster recovery compared to the placebo group. The placebo group had 65 total colds over the study period. The garlic group had 24. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between being sick 3 times a year versus once. Number five, your cholesterol profile starts to shift in the right direction. Now we are getting into the cardiovascular stuff, and this is where garlic really earns its reputation. Multiple meta-analyses, which are studies of studies, the highest level of scientific evidence we have concluded that regular garlic consumption reduces total cholesterol and specifically lowers LDL, the bad cholesterol that builds up inside your arteries and sets the stage for heart attack and stroke. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nutrition examined 39 randomized controlled trials and found that garlic reduced total cholesterol by an average of 17 milligrams per deciliter and LDL cholesterol by 9 milligrams per deciliter in people with elevated cholesterol. Those numbers might sound modest, but let me put them in context. A 17-point drop in total cholesterol sustained over years translates into a measurable reduction in cardiovascular events. It is not as dramatic as a statin drug, but it comes with none of the side effects: no muscle pain, no liver stress, no cognitive complaints. And garlic does something that statins do not do. It also reduces the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. Oxidized LDL is the truly dangerous form. It is the form that gets sticky and burrows into your arterial walls and triggers the inflammatory cascade that leads to plaque formation. The antioxidants in raw garlic, particularly the sulfur compounds, help prevent that oxidation from happening in the first place. So you are not just lowering the amount of bad cholesterol in your blood, you are making the cholesterol that remains less dangerous. That is a two-pronged defense that you cannot get from a pill dot. Before we get to numbers 4 through 1, where things get really interesting, I need to ask a favor. If you have made it this far, please hit subscribe and tap that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this information, and I read every single comment on these videos. Number 4. Your blood pressure drops sometimes dramatically. Let me go deeper on this because it is the benefit that is most consistently demonstrated in the research. A landmark study published through the Journal of Clinical Hypertension looked at patients with uncontrolled high blood pressure, people whose systolic was above 140 despite already making lifestyle changes. The participants received aged garlic extract, standardized to contain the active sulfur compounds, for 12 weeks. The results were striking. The average systolic blood pressure dropped by 10 points. In some participants, the drop was over 16 points. To put that in perspective, a 10-point reduction in systolic blood pressure is associated with a 20% reduction in the risk of major cardiovascular events and a 13% reduction in the risk of death from any cause. Those are the kinds of numbers that make cardiologists sit up and pay attention. And the mechanism is elegant. Allicin stimulates the production of hydrogen sulfide in your blood vessels. Hydrogen sulfide is a gas that acts as a signaling molecule. It tells the smooth muscle cells in your artery walls to relax. When those muscles relax, the artery widens, resistance drops, and your blood pressure falls. It is the same basic mechanism that certain blood pressure medications use. Calcium channel blockers, ACE inhibitors, they all ultimately work by relaxing the smooth muscle in your blood vessel walls. Garlic does it through a different pathway, but the end result is similar. Blood vessels relax, blood flows more freely, pressure comes down, and unlike medications, garlic also provides the antioxidant protection and the cholesterol benefits at the same time. It is a whole food intervention that addresses multiple cardiovascular risk factors simultaneously. For someone like Robert, the patient I told you about earlier, the blood pressure drop from raw garlic meant the difference between starting a lifelong prescription medication and avoiding it completely. That is not trivial. That changes the trajectory of a person's health. Number 3. Your body's inflammation dial gets turned way down. Chronic low-grade inflammation is now understood to be one of the root drivers of almost every chronic disease we face as we age. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, arthritis, even depression, all have inflammation at their core. And raw garlic is one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatory agents you can consume. The sulfur compounds in garlic inhibit the activity of inflammatory enzymes called cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase. These are the same enzymes targeted by nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen and naproxen. Garlic works on the same pathways, but in a gentler, more sustained way. It does not shut the enzymes down completely, it modulates them. It brings them back into balance. A study published in the journal Phytotherapy Research found that garlic extracts significantly reduced markers of systemic inflammation, including C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, in participants with elevated baseline inflammation. C-reactive protein, or CRP, is the marker that cardiologists now use to assess heart disease risk independently of cholesterol. When your CRP is high, your risk of a heart attack is high, even if your cholesterol looks fine. Garlic brings CRP down. It quiets the inflammatory fire that smolders quietly inside your body for years before it ever produces symptoms. And this anti-inflammatory effect is not limited to your heart, it extends to your joints, where reduced inflammation means less stiffness and less pain. It extends to your brain, where reduced neuroinflammation means clearer thinking and lower risk of cognitive decline. It extends to your lungs, where reduced airway inflammation means easier breathing. When you reduce systemic inflammation, every organ system in your body benefits. Garlic is not targeting one problem. It is targeting the underlying process that drives many problems at once. Number 2. Your brain gets long-term protection against cognitive decline. This is the benefit that excites me the most as a physician because neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's are among the most devastating conditions we face, and we have very few effective pharmaceutical options. But the data on garlic and brain health is genuinely encouraging. The antioxidants in raw garlic cross the blood-brain barrier. They enter your brain tissue and neutralize the free radicals that damage neurons over time. Free radical damage to brain cells is one of the primary mechanisms driving age related cognitive decline. Every time your brain cells are exposed to oxidative stress without adequate antioxidant protection, a little bit of damage accumulates. Over decades, that damage adds up to memory loss, slower processing speed, and in the worst cases, dementia. Garlic's antioxidants, particularly S-allylcysteine, provide direct neuroprotection. They act like a shield for your neurons, intercepting the free radicals before they can do harm. But there is more. Garlic also improves blood flow to the brain through the same hydrogen sulfide mechanism that lowers blood pressure throughout your body. Better blood flow means more oxygen, more glucose, and more efficient waste clearance from your brain tissue. Your brain is only about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes about 20% of your oxygen and glucose. It is a metabolically greedy organ. It needs constant, high quality blood flow to function at its best. Anything that improves cerebral circulation is going to help you think more clearly today and protect your cognition for the future. Population studies have found that cultures with high garlic consumption, particularly in parts of the Mediterranean and Asia, have lower rates of neurodegenerative disease. Now, population studies cannot prove causation. There are too many confounding variables. But when you combine the epidemiological data with the mechanistic research showing exactly how garlic's compounds protect brain cells, the picture becomes compelling. You are not just seasoning your food. You are making a daily deposit into your long-term cognitive reserve. And number one, the thing most people never connect to garlic at all, your hormones rebalance and your energy returns. This is the benefit that surprises men the most when they start eating raw garlic every day. Garlic contains a compound called diallyl disulfide, which has been shown in research to stimulate the release of luteinizing hormone from the pituitary gland. Luteinizing hormone is the signal that tells your testes to produce testosterone. More luteinizing hormone means more testosterone production, assuming your testes are functioning normally. Studies have found that men who consume garlic regularly show measurably higher testosterone levels compared to men who do not. And the mechanism makes sense. Garlic provides the sulfur that your body needs to produce testosterone and other steroid hormones. Sulfur is a critical building block for hormone synthesis, and many people are mildly deficient in sulfur without knowing it. On top of that, garlic is a powerful reducer of cortisol, the stress hormone that directly suppresses testosterone production. Cortisol and testosterone have an inverse relationship. When cortisol is chronically elevated from stress, poor sleep, or overwork, your testosterone drops. It is a direct hormonal seesaw. Garlic helps keep cortisol in check by modulating your body's stress response system, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When cortisol comes down, testosterone naturally comes up. It is not a dramatic pharmaceutical style spike. It is a gentle, sustained rebalancing that brings your hormones back toward where they should be for your age. For men dealing with low energy, reduced libido, difficulty building or maintaining muscle, brain fog, or just a general sense that something is off hormonally, raw garlic every day addresses the problem from multiple angles simultaneously. It provides the raw materials your body needs to make hormones, it stimulates the signaling pathways that trigger hormone production, and it suppresses the stress hormone that blocks hormone production. That is a three-pronged mechanism that very few foods can match. Now let me tell you about Frank, 72 years old from Dayton, Ohio. Frank came to me feeling like the volume had been turned down on his life. His words, not mine. He said he felt like he was operating at about 60% of what he used to be. His energy was low. His motivation was low. His doctor had checked his testosterone and told him it was quote unquote normal for his age. Frank did not want normal for his age. He wanted to feel like himself again. I told Frank about raw garlic. He looked at me like I had three heads. This is a man who had been eating garlic in his pasta sauce for 50 years and never once considered eating it raw, but he was willing to try anything. So Frank started the habit. One small clove, crushed, 10-minute wait, first thing in the morning. 6 weeks later, he came back to see me, and the first thing he said was that his wife had asked him what was different about him. He was waking up before his alarm. He was initiating things again, projects around the house, walks after dinner, conversations he had been avoiding. He told me with tears in his eyes that he felt like he had gotten a decade back. Now, raw garlic did not single-handedly reverse aging for Frank. That is not how biology works. But what it did was give his body the raw materials and the signaling support it needed to start functioning closer to its potential. The garlic did not do it alone, but it was the catalyst that got everything else moving in the right direction. His testosterone came up, his inflammation came down, his blood pressure improved, his energy returned, and it all started with one clove of raw garlic every morning. So now you know what raw garlic does inside your body, but knowing is not the same as doing, and the doing is where most people fall short. So let me give you the exact protocol. This is how you eat raw garlic the right way to get the maximum benefit without the downsides that make most people quit. Step 1. Crush it first, always. This is non-negotiable. A whole uncrushed clove of raw garlic produces almost no allicin. The alliin and the alliinase enzyme are stored in separate compartments inside the garlic cell. When you crush, chop, or chew the garlic, you rupture those compartments, and the enzyme converts the alliin into allicin. A whole clove swallowed like a pill is basically useless from a health standpoint. You must crush it. Step 2. Let it sit for 10 minutes. After crushing, leave the garlic at room temperature for 10 full minutes before you eat it or mix it with anything. This waiting period allows the chemical reaction to complete. The allicin needs time to form. If you crush garlic and immediately throw it into your mouth or into a hot pan, you have short-circuited the process. The enzyme needs that 10-minute window to do its work. Set a timer if you have to. It matters that much. Step 3. How to eat it without suffering. I am not going to pretend raw garlic tastes pleasant. It is intense. It burns. That burning sensation is actually the allicin activating the same pain receptors in your mouth that respond to heat. It is a sign that the active compound is there and working, but you do not need to suffer through it. The easiest method for most people is to mince one small clove very finely after the 10-minute crush and rest period. Then mix it into a tablespoon of olive oil, a teaspoon of raw honey, or a small spoonful of plain yogurt. Any of these will coat the garlic and dramatically reduce the harshness while keeping the allicin fully intact. You can also swallow the crushed garlic with a glass of water like you would a supplement. Just make sure it is crushed, not whole. Some of my patients spread it on a small piece of toast with butter. Some stir it into a shot of tomato juice. Find what works for you. The method matters less than the consistency. Step 4. When to take it. First thing in the morning on an empty stomach is ideal. Your digestive system absorbs the active compounds most efficiently when there is no other food competing for absorption. Many people also find that taking it at night before bed works well, especially if you are concerned about garlic breath during the day. The smell peaks about 2 to 3 hours after ingestion, so by morning it is significantly reduced. Step 5. How much? One small to medium clove per day is the sweet spot. That is enough to get every benefit I have described. 2 cloves is fine if your stomach tolerates it well. More than that, and you may experience digestive irritation, bloating, or heartburn. More is not better. Consistency is better. 1 clove every day for a year will do infinitely more for your health than 5 cloves a day for 2 weeks before you quit because your stomach hurts. Start small. Stay consistent. Now, before you run to your kitchen, there are a few important precautions I need you to hear. These are not suggestions. If you are taking blood thinning medication, warfarin, clopidogrel, even daily aspirin therapy, raw garlic has significant blood thinning properties that can amplify the effect of your medication. This is not theoretical. There are documented cases of people on blood thinners experiencing excessive bleeding after adding large amounts of raw garlic to their diet. Speak with your doctor before starting if you are on any anticoagulant or antiplatelet medication. If you have a sensitive stomach, GERD, or acid reflux, raw garlic can irritate your digestive lining. Start with half a clove, always take it with food rather than on an empty stomach, and pay attention to how your body responds. If you have surgery scheduled, stop eating raw garlic at least 2 weeks before your procedure. The blood thinning effect is strong enough to be a surgical concern, and if you are taking medication for HIV, certain transplant anti-rejection drugs, or certain thyroid medications, garlic can interfere with how your liver processes those drugs. Check with your doctor if you are on any prescription medications at all. Better to ask than to guess. For everyone else. The healthy person who wants cleaner arteries, a stronger immune system, better brain protection, balanced hormones, and real measurable protection against the diseases of aging, 1 crushed clove of raw garlic every day is one of the most powerful, most studied, least expensive habits available to you. You already have garlic in your kitchen. It costs almost nothing. The science behind it spans thousands of studies across decades of research, and it starts working from the very first day you do it. Your body is still listening. It just needs the right signal delivered the right way. And sometimes the right signal is as simple as a crushed clove of garlic sitting on your kitchen counter for 10 minutes, waiting to unlock something ancient and powerful inside you that modern medicine is only beginning to understand. If this video helped you, please hit subscribe because I release new research backed videos like this every single week. I genuinely read every comment on these videos and I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried eating raw garlic before, or are you starting today after hearing this? Which of these 7 benefits surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments below. I will see you in the next one. That is roughly 4,100 words. Right on target. No headings, no robotic formatting, just a natural conversational flow in the doctor. William Lee Authority style with the counterintuitive hook, patient stories, countdown structure, clinical citations, and emotional payoff. Want me to now build the full upload package, title options, description, tags, hashtags, and a pinned comment. So this is ready to go into YouTube Studio?